Officer James Parker was a seasoned cop known for his strict, no-nonsense attitude. He believed that people living on the streets were there because of their own bad choices, and he had little patience or sympathy for them. One cold evening, as he patrolled the city, he noticed a homeless woman sitting outside a closed store. Her name was Lisa, a woman in her mid-40s, wrapped in a worn-out blanket. Her eyes were filled with exhaustion and despair. Once, she had lived a normal life, but after losing her job and home, she had nowhere to go. James frowned as he walked toward her. "You again," he muttered. "Didn't I tell you to move from here?" Lisa looked up at him, her voice soft. "I'm not bothering anyone, officer. I just need a little rest." James scoffed. "Rest? You need to get a job. People like you just sit around waiting for handouts while the rest of us work hard." His tone was full of contempt. Lisa lowered her gaze. "I had a job once. Life doesn't always go as planned." James shook his head in irritation. "Yeah, sure. That's what they all say." With that, he walked away, leaving Lisa alone in the cold. Later that night, James received an urgent call on his radio. "All units, be advised. Armed robbery at the convenience store on 5th Street. Suspect fleeing on foot." James immediately turned on his siren and sped toward the location. When he arrived, he spotted a man in dark clothing running into a narrow alley. Without hesitation, James chased after him. The alley was dimly lit, with crumbling walls and scattered debris. He was gaining on the suspect, confident that he would catch him soon. But suddenly, clang! James' foot caught on a loose metal pipe sticking out of the ground. Before he could react, he lost balance and fell forward with full force. Ooh! He hit the pavement hard, pain shooting through his body. He tried to push himself up, but as he looked down at his leg, his heart sank. A sharp piece of metal had cut deep into his leg. Blood was pouring from the wound, and an unbearable pain spread through his body. Breathing heavily, he reached for his radio, but it had fallen out of reach. His vision blurred, and weakness took over. The suspect had escaped, and now James was alone, injured, and helpless. As James drifted in and out of consciousness, he heard hurried footsteps approaching. "Officer?" "Oh my God!" It was Lisa. She knelt beside him, her face filled with worry. "You're hurt." James groaned, struggling to stay conscious. Why are you helping me?" he muttered, confused. Lisa didn't hesitate. She quickly tore a strip of fabric from her blanket and pressed it against his wound to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me," she said firmly. "Help is coming." James, weak and in pain, stared at the woman he had insulted just hours ago. He had treated her like she was worthless, yet here she was, saving his life. Lisa ran to a nearby payphone and called 911. Within minutes, sirens echoed through the night as paramedics arrived. They rushed to James' side, stabilizing him and preparing him for transport. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, he looked at Lisa one last time, guilt and gratitude mixing in his eyes. Part 4, the realization. Days later, James woke up in a hospital bed, his leg bandaged and healing. But the physical pain wasn't what troubled him the most, it was the shame he felt. The woman he had mocked and looked down upon had been the one to save his life. He had misjudged her, assuming she was lazy or irresponsible. But in reality, she had a heart far kinder than his own. Determined to make amends, he used his connections to find her. After searching for hours, he finally spotted Lisa sitting outside an abandoned building. This time, he didn't tell her to move. Instead, he sat beside her. "I owe you my life," James admitted. "And I'm sorry for the way I treated you." Lisa gave him a small, tired smile. "You were just doing your job, officer. No hard feelings." But James knew it wasn't that simple. He had been wrong about her, and he wanted to do something real to help. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small card. "This is the address of a shelter. I also spoke to some people. I can help you get a job interview." Lisa's eyes widened. "Why are you doing this?" "Because everyone deserves a second chance," James said sincerely. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. For the first time in years, she felt hope. As James walked away, he realized he had changed, not just in the way he saw Lisa, but in the way he saw the world. True kindness had no status, no wealth, and no uniform. It came from the heart. The end.